Welcome. Rarely a week goes by without a news report about the precarious nature of California's water supply. Dramatic population growth, agricultural and business needs, and environmental demands are stressing our already fragile water supply to the breaking point. And no place in the state is more impacted than the San Joaquin Valley. We are fortunate today to have several water experts with us today to talk about the issue here in the Valley. Dave Zaldowski is head of the California Water Institute. Tom Birmingham is the director of the Westlands Water District, and Ron Jacobsma is the director of the Friant Water Authority. Welcome to all of you guys.
Thank you.
Listen, I want to start, Dave, with you. Let's begin at the beginning, and that is why do we keep fighting over water? It seems like, you know, there's death, taxes, and in California, water. We're always fighting over that issue. Why is it a problem, and why hasn't it been solved?
Well, I think, first of all, we just can't agree on it. So, you know, how it's going to be allocated and when and all the conditions. For instance, one of the things we've been working on is a regional water plan. And with that plan, we've got 8 counties trying to agree on how the region ought to deal with this water supply, and we can't even agree on that conveyance and other forms of infrastructure are important to the valley. And so we've got interregional folks wanting to veto the regional interests of the area.
Why is that? Why are the different parts of the region pulling apart?
You know, I guess they're long-held beliefs that their area is more important than the whole of the areas, and they want to maintain those traditional extractions and water rights that they've had historically.
Okay, well, we're going to talk more about the regional issue in a moment. Ron, I want to ask you about the Millerton Dam. My understanding is it's at full capacity, 100%. That doesn't seem to square with the alarm being sounded by many that we have a severe water shortage. So can you connect those two dots for us?
Yeah, I sure can. The San Joaquin River has an average runoff of 1.7 million acre feet. And Millerton holds 520,000 acre feet, but only 385,000 acre feet is usable. That's where the canals come out. So in a normal year, we turn that reservoir over many times. So even in a dry year, particularly with the heat wave we had in the beginning of May, that runoff comes in early and we have a challenge managing it. So what we end up doing is delivering water, put it in the ground, because we have recharge basins throughout the Friant division. There's about 1 million acres, 15,000 farmers in the Friant division. And in a tight year like this, we may not even have 100% of our Class 1 supply, which means in the middle of summer, they'll be extracting that groundwater again. But water is so precious, even though we're only at 80% of average on the Friant division this year, we're going to put it to beneficial use one way or another.
Well, I understand also is that Friant is quite a bit smaller than, say, Pine Flat, another local reservoir. And my understanding that Pine Flat is about twice the size of Friant, and it only has 61% capacity.
They were just over 700,000 acre feet. I think they're coming off of that now, so about 70% of capacity. They hold 1 million. The San Joaquin River system does have some reservoirs upstream that are owned by the power company, so there is some additional storage up there. But it's always been a challenge in managing an average year on the Friant system, which is why we are a conjunctive use type of district. Our districts that are in the valley floor will take wet year water, put it in the ground. It needs time to put it in the ground, and then in the dry year, we'll draw upon those reserves. So this being our 3rd dry year in a row, our groundwater has taken a pretty significant beating, particularly as you get to the western edge of Fresno and Tulare
Well, I want
counties.
to talk about the Westlands Water District, and what I've read is that you guys are suffering a triple whammy, relying on the Delta pumps. There's a lack of storage, and you're a relative newcomer in your demand for water. As a result, you're only getting 10% of your allocation. That's the worst supply, I guess, in your history. What can be done to change that scenario?
Well, first let me correct a couple of things that you said. Westlands is facing a number of whammies. The principal whammy is that the principal water supply for Westlands and other Central Valley Project irrigation service contractors on the west side of the San Joaquin Valley is water that originates in the Sacramento River watershed and is then conveyed through the Delta. And because of restrictions on pumping water that is conveyed through the Delta, we are unable to move sufficient water to meet demand south of the Delta. But there's a misperception that Westlands allocations are lower than allocations for other contractors because it has one of the newer contracts. The Bureau of Reclamation does not allocate water among water service contractors based on the date of their contract.
Does the date of the contract just affect the price then?
The date of the contract does not affect the price, nor does it affect the allocation. The oldest water district on the Delta Mendota Canal, Del Puerto Water District, which executed its contract in 1952, has exactly the same allocation of water as Westlands does, 10%. It is the lowest allocation that we've had in our history, and it's not a product of drought or hydrology. In fact, if you look at this hydrologic year, this is an average year. It's following 2 dry years, but today Folsom Reservoir is at capacity. Shasta Reservoir is 80% of its long-term average storage for this time of year. And so the conditions are not that dry. It's simply a matter of not being able to move water from where it's needed to where the demand, where it originates to where the demand
Okay, well,
exists.
we'll get back to that in a moment. When we come back, we'll discuss what's being done to deal with this year's water crisis. Later, we'll discuss some of the comprehensive proposals being offered in Sacramento to address the state's long-term water needs. This is the Maddie Report.